When we picture global dominance, we think of nuclear stockpiles and massive standing armies. But these assets require a functioning world to operate. The modern economy runs on a surprisingly fragile network of maritime corridors. On March 23, 2021, the world saw how easily that network breaks. A single cargo ship became wedged completely sideways across the Suez Canal. No missiles were fired, yet the disruption was total. Over the next 6 days, that single stuck ship resulted in an estimated $54 billion in global economic losses. Millions of tons of food, critical medical supplies, and industrial machinery were stranded mid-ocean as the global supply chain ground to a halt. In geopolitics, these narrow, highly vulnerable corridors are known as choke points. Our entire global economy relies on just 14 of these maritime doors to function. Suez is part of a larger physical map of control. These 14 bottlenecks offer mechanical leverage over the modern world, providing the ability to halt global trade flows through geography alone. This is the Strait of Hormuz, between Iran and Oman, the primary valve for the world's energy vault. The gap is a mere 33 kilometers wide, yet over 30% of global daily oil passes through it to global markets. If a regional power like Iran were to blockade this narrow strip, the reaction would ripple through every gas pump on the planet. As supply lines dry up, fuel prices would climb, paralyzing global transportation and skyrocketing everyday costs. Just south of the Red Sea lies another bottleneck, the Bab al-Mandeb, or the Gate of Tears. Recently, Houthi forces in Yemen have exploited this specific geography to launch targeted attacks on commercial cargo en route to the Suez Canal. Ultimately, these straits act as geopolitical kill switches. Because geography forces massive cargo vessels into a narrow, predictable line, it allows local actors to hold global superpowers economically hostage. Further north, the Bosphorus and Dardanelles Straits cut through Turkey. These waterways are the mandatory exit point for ships leaving the Black Sea. This geography creates a permanent constraint for Russia. Despite its size, most of Russia's northern coastlines are frozen over for much of the year. The Black Sea is its only viable year-round exit for maritime trade and naval operations. Under international law, Turkey manages the transit of these vessels. In times of conflict, the Turkish government alone decides which warships are allowed to pass and which are confined to the Black Sea, forcing both Moscow and Washington to constantly vie for Ankara's favor. Compare that to the natural defenses of Western Europe. Controlling the Strait of Gibraltar means managing half the maritime trade between Europe and Africa, while the English Channel has served as a historical barrier, protecting British sovereignty for centuries. A nation can build a massive military fleet, but if geography traps those ships inside a closed lake, they remain strategically paralyzed. In Southeast Asia, the Strait of Malacca sits between Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. It is the busiest commercial waterway and main artery for global manufacturing. A quarter of global trade and most of China's energy runs through here. This Malacca dilemma means a U.S. blockade could sever China's fuel. To mitigate this, Beijing is building overland Belt and Road supply lines to bypass the ocean. Then there is the Taiwan Strait. This corridor handles 70% of the world's microchips, but the island itself also blocks China's deep-water access. The surrounding waters are too shallow for submarines, acting as a physical wall that prevents China from freely entering the deep Pacific. For China, securing Taiwan is a mandatory geographic requirement. It is the only way to break out of its maritime constraints and operate as an unchecked global power. When these main arteries fail, the alternatives are difficult. The Panama Canal is an engineering marvel that saves ships weeks of travel. Yet today, climate-induced droughts are draining its water levels and forcing major transit restrictions. If Panama fails, ships must brave the storms of the Strait of Magellan at the tip of South America. If the Suez Canal is blocked, captains face a massive detour around the Cape of Good Hope, adding thousands of miles and millions in fuel costs to every journey. The map of control is also shifting. In the Bering Strait, between Alaska and Russia, the ice is fracturing. As global warming opens this passage, it will create a new, shorter shortcut connecting Asia directly to Europe and North America. Zooming out reveals the global architecture of this system. Out of these 14 critical doors, the United States currently maintains a direct or indirect military presence at 10 of them. Borders drawn on a map are often an illusion. True global hegemony belongs to the nation that stands guard over the water between them.